What is up, guys? Welcome to the Nest Podcast, episode 114. I'm Brandon, and I'm joined by my co-host, Zach. What is up, Zach? Good job last week without me.
Thanks, sir. I was vacation.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. If you'll notice, I'm a little bit more bronze this week than normal. It's because I've been spending a little bit of quality time in the sun with the family and all that. Shout out to Adam Ballesteros for filling in for me last week. We appreciate him coming around and talking to you and keeping the podcast going last week. But this week, I need to start off by saying, give me a break. The Los Angeles Lakers actually did it. They actually won the NBA championship. So that makes LeBron a 4-time champion.
Janice is going to get a pizza here soon.
Yeah. Oh, and if look, Janice is already jumping in the comments. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Man. I am a man of my word, though. I made a bet with him saying that if the Lakers won, I would get him a Nest Podcast t-shirt and I would throw him a pizza. So go ahead, pick out whatever pizza you want. Hit me up in a DM and I'll make sure that it's there. Give me your t-shirt size, whatever shirt you want, whatever color you want, and your address, and I'll send it your way. But he said it in the comments, and for all the people out there that are saying that this now definitively makes Bron the GOAT, I disagree. I disagree that this makes him the GOAT. I never thought that he was the GOAT. I never will think that he's the GOAT because it's taken him 3 different super teams to even get to 4. If Jordan hadn't retired to go play baseball, he would have won 8 in a row. And he did it with the same team, the same core group team. Yeah, you can say LeBron, he's won 3 championships with 3 teams. He's the first player in any major sport to do that, blah, blah, blah. That just means that he's been picking and choosing who he wants to play with his entire career. I don't think he's the GOAT, but they did win. LA did win. And I guess, shout out to Kobe because they won it for Kobe this year.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
LeBron, he very well may be the best of his generation, but he's not the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I think that's a stretch. I think people should watch The Last Dance again if they think that's the case, because it's absolutely definitive. LeBron is great. He's an absolutely great basketball player. But Jordan was able to do things that he's not able to do. Jordan absolutely needs big time help. And I think LeBron needs big time help. And Jordan had just people that complimented him. I think he didn't really have a absolute superstar on his team. Anthony Davis is in his own right an absolute great player. And for the most part, unless LeBron is losing, he's had absolute superstar talent help him win finals. So
the first 2 that he won, he had Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade down in Miami. Don't forget about Ray Allen essentially winning a championship for him. And then in Cleveland, he had Kyrie. Now in LA, he's got Anthony Davis and Rajon Rondo and a bunch of other talent around him. So, yeah, Jordan did it with just Scottie Pippen and then guys like Luke Longley and Horace Grant and Steve Kerr and people like that.
Right. Very, very one-dimensional players like Dennis Rodman was a rebounding and defense mastermind. He didn't do much else. So he didn't have absolute superstars that helped him out.
Yeah. So, basically it is what it is. Breaking news, LeBron started Muay Thai today, so he might be able to win some MMA fights in about 6 months, right, Zach?
There you go. Yep. I figured he would take some vacation, but I guess he's really serious about it.
He's on that grind now, boys.
Watch out, Colby.
So, speaking of training and rehabbing and stuff like that, Dak Prescott now is definitely going to be on the rehab and on the mend, because in case you've been living under a rock, he broke his ankle last night, went in to have surgery, and he's shut down for the entire season. That doesn't bode well for the Dallas Cowboys, who were struggling before, and it definitely doesn't bode well for them now that they've got Andy Dalton, who's going to be under center. But what does that mean for Dak's quest to get paid? Does that really jeopardize that?
It puts a huge question mark on everything, because up until this, he was lighting the world on fire. He was, I think, 300 yards or something away from 2,000 yards passing already.
And he was leading the league in passing yards.
So yeah, he was tearing it up, and I think if he would have been able to finish this year with really good numbers, if the Cowboys weren't going to pay him, someone was going to pay him a big contract. And now that he's got this injury, who knows?
I definitely think that it's going to knock him out of being able to ask for Patrick Mahomes type numbers. It's probably going to knock him out of asking for Deshaun Watson type numbers, because now they're going to have those question marks like Cam Newton. Like, is he going to be able to be healthy when he comes back? So are we going to see Dak Prescott playing for another team for like $5 million next year?
I don't know. I don't think Jerry is real dead set on paying him, obviously. So
I don't think Jerry is dead set on Dak Prescott, period.
Yeah.
You know, you and Adam were talking about it a little bit last week about how Jerry was kind of taking some veiled shots, even putting Tony Romo up there as a clutch quarterback and not giving Dak any kind of credit. So I don't think that he's that sold on him. Looks like a bunch of people are saying some stuff about Jerry Jones and Dallas's season being over and stuff.
Right.
But I think they're right. I think Dallas's season is pretty much a wash, and better luck next year. Hopefully, Dak is going to be able to recover from this injury and be on a field somewhere in 2021.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Jerry Jones has against Dak per se. Maybe he sees that he's a high highs and low lows type of quarterback. I don't know, but he's been great this year, and it didn't seem to sway his opinion. So I don't know.
No, I think Dak has definitely been one of the at least top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL this year. And you've got, I think Adam said last week there are 8 good ones in the NFL, and I would definitely put Dak in the top half of those for sure. You've got Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilsons and guys like that out there, but Dak is right there with him. He was leading the league in passing. He had just as many touchdowns as the rest of them. He was on an MVP pace before this injury, and it sucks to see it. But what does that say about other dual threat quarterbacks and stuff like that? We've been saying for a long time that these guys that they take off running, they're putting themselves in harm's way. And Logan Ryan of the Giants happened to be able to track Dak down, and then he just landed on him in a freaky way. He didn't intend to hurt him. He didn't hit him with like a low shot or anything. He just landed on his ankle weird, and that's it. We were talking before we went live. A lot of injuries in sports happen on a freaky nature. We were watching the Kevin Ware from Louisville video where he was trying to block a shot and just landed awkwardly, and his whole leg snapped. You and Brad both mentioned Gordon Hayward, and that injury was a freak injury. So
yeah, it happens, man. And it's a risky business to get into if you want to be a mobile quarterback, but it seems like that's the way the league is going. And I guess you're either going to just play until you can't, or people are going to figure it out. I don't know. I'm not sure is there anything to do about it. It's just the nature of the beast, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good to have those mobile quarterbacks because they are crazy good, and the NFL is just it's been built to be a passing league here lately. But then having these quarterbacks that can see the field and then decide to run if they want to, it gives offenses a really, really big advantage. So I could see that being a wave that continues, but these guys getting $40 million a year to be that type of athlete, that might be something that these owners sit back and they decide, I don't want to invest that much in a mobile quarterback. I'll sit back and wait until they're a little bit older and only pay $1 million like they did with Cam, like the Patriots did with Cam.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Pat Mahomes is maybe the test to see if it works to pay a mobile quarterback that much money, because if he goes down, I mean, the Chiefs are screwed. they really don't have another answer. He's basically their entire offense. Sure, they have all those weapons and stuff, but it starts with Patrick Mahomes. If you watched the game this weekend against Las Vegas, you'll notice that if he wasn't making his passes, if he wasn't doing his thing, they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I think you said it in our text thread that if Patrick Mahomes isn't on, the Chiefs really don't have it. Their defense isn't the best out there. I mean, we all know that they're an offense-driven team, and if he's not out there on point with the offense, they're kind of subpar. I mean, if you look back at the past couple weeks, they nearly lost to the Chargers in Justin Herbert's debut, and then they nearly lost to the Patriots without Cam Newton when Brian Hoyer was starting under center in his first start in like 7 years or whatever. So they're not that great. They're not that unbeatable juggernaut that everybody portrays them to be. Yeah, they're good. And if they're clicking on all cylinders, they're very, very hard to beat. But if you've got an offense that can keep up with them and can just slow them down and stop them on defense, you can beat them. And Freeberg nailed it right there. Defenses win championships, and that's absolutely right. It's been that way for a long, long time.
Yep.
But we were talking about Dak and his injury and all that. A man that certainly knows what it feels like to get injured on the field made his triumphant return to the football field this week. And of course, I'm talking about Alex Smith. Now, Alex was injured in week 11 of 2018, and he spent the better part of the last 2 years rehabbing and having multiple surgeries to repair his mangled leg. And he actually got to come out there and take a few live snaps. That was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people obviously thought that he might not ever play again. And I think I'm assuming that's what doctors told him.
I was one of them.
Yeah. And here he is doing the damn thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to go ahead and, pencil him in for comeback player of the year, although it's pretty tempting to do so. But he did come out and have pretty mediocre stats for what it's worth. He went 9 for 17 for only 37 yards and was sacked 6 times.
Oof.
Each time that he was sacked, it was a cringeworthy moment because you're like, is he going to get back up? But to his credit, he did. Aaron Donald hit him a few times and he was able to pop right back up. So it's like, okay. But his wife and kids were in the crowd like, ugh.
Yeah.
Watching through their fingers like, oh no, please don't let them have to go through all that again.
Yep. That's got to be rough, man.
But it was cool to see him get to come back and get to, at least relive some of that football glory, even if he didn't have the accolades that he would have probably hoped for.
Sure. You also got to factor in that he's on the Washington football team. So it's not like he had much to work with anyway.
Well, and Jerome says, give him a couple more games and he'll be decent. Unfortunately for Alex Smith, Josh Allen is going to be the starter again going forward. He was apparently cleared to come back in the game, but the Ron Rivera decided just to keep him out for protocols or whatever, and already has said that Josh Allen will be back starting again next week. Interestingly enough, though, Dwayne Haskins was demoted all the way to the practice squad of the Washington football team, and that's how Alex Smith even got in the game in the first place.
Yeah. What are they doing there? Are they just trying to motivate that kid, or?
I don't know. Maybe old Riverboat Ron is gambling and he just thinks that Haskins needs more time to practice and develop, or maybe he just thinks that he ain't it.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, Washington football team is an anomaly in and of itself. They've got a lot going on. So
Yep.
anything that happens in that organization, you just got to take it with a grain of salt this year.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit about the Patriots earlier about, how they were close to beating the Chiefs, but they didn't even get to play their game this week because it was postponed. It was supposed to be tonight, and then it got postponed till tomorrow, and then it got postponed all the way to next week because of reoccurring COVID cases. Of course, Cam had to sit out in the Chiefs game because of a COVID pop, and then Stephon Gilmore after the game tested positive for COVID. And then now they've had multiple other COVID cases on the team, even though they've taken a lot of precautions to try to stop the spread. My thing is if this is such a big deal, they shouldn't have even played against the Chiefs in the first place. If they were worried about it and postponing games because of it, they shouldn't have let them go on and play. It's a wonder that the Chiefs haven't developed some sort of positive cases or whatever, because, football, you're smashing into one another, you're around each other. You got 53 guys and 53 guys, all of you are close together. If one is positive, and Stephon Gilmore probably was at that time just asymptomatic or whatever,
Right.
what if it gets into the Chiefs locker room? I 100% think that if Patrick Mahomes had tested positive, the league would have come to a grinding halt and we would be in a pause right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It seems like the NFL is kind of playing with fire. If you remember, the MLB didn't let people play games if they had positive tests. They had to just stop and postpone and do all that stuff. And it seems like the NFL is just trying to push things off. And then if players test negative, then they continue. But it seems to be not working, because even days after the first player tests positive or whatever, you get more and more people that are testing positive, and that really throws a wrench in the gears of what they're trying to do. So it's interesting to see this play out with the NFL, because they obviously don't have the same luxuries that MLB does. They can't play double headers. They don't have as long of a time span. They have basically a hard cutoff date where they can't play any more games because they're going to roll into playoffs. So it's interesting to see everything kind of unfold and see how they try to manage it.
Well, they have booked pretty much the entire month of February for the potential Super Bowl. So they do have a little bit of leeway, a little bit of fluctuation, more than the Big Ten built into their schedule, because they just built 8 games in 8 weeks. That's it.
Good luck.
But yeah, good luck. But the NFL did have some built-in time, and it is what it is. If they do have to pause for a week or two to get everybody back to having negative tests, then so be it. That's what they'll have to do, and then they'll be able to just delay the playoffs a little bit, and then obviously delay the Super Bowl. We're in a situation now where the NBA finals just ended, and it's normally the time when the NBA is about to start.
Yeah.
NBA normally starts around November timeframe. So that's going to get pushed back, a delay in the NBA start time or whatever. And we're moving things around in this COVID world or whatever it is. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened with the Super Bowl and stuff like that.
Right. I heard on one of the talking head shows that I don't know if it was some sort of agreement between the owners and players, but they have up until a week 19 potentially to have regular season games. So obviously, I guess that's their last resort, but that is in their ability to stretch out the regular season. And then I guess after that, they can push off their playoffs or whatever they need to do.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was saying, is they've built that into where they have that little like wiggle room, so to say. One thing that's completely blowing my mind about this season is that the Cleveland Browns are 4-1.
Killing it, man.
The Chicago Bears are 4-1. I mean, the AFC North, for what it's worth, is probably one of the best divisions in all of football. You've got the Browns at 4-1, the Ravens at 4-1, and the Steelers at 4-0. Of course, the Steelers had to have their game postponed last week against the Titans, but you've got some juggernauts in the AFC in that one division. But I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it's going to last. But somehow in this 2020 world, did the Browns actually figure out how to play football?
It seems like it. I mean, what they did against Dallas was insane. I mean, putting up 49 points was nothing to scoff at. Granted, it's not like Dallas has some sort of formidable defense, but nonetheless, this is a Browns team we're talking about. This is Baker Mayfield we're talking about, who always just figures out a way to screw it up, and they were able to come through and do it. And it seems like they've got something going here. Like you said, who knows how long it can last, but at least for right now, they're looking pretty okay.
Yeah, like last year they came in with all that hype, and we really got behind them last year. We kind of coined them the team of the Nest podcast or whatever. Thanks for that reference there, Jerome. Um, but it is kind of like last year's LA Lakers team. Everybody thought that team was going to be good because LeBron was just getting to the Lakers, and it ended up being kind of a crap show for lack of a better word. They had Lonzo Ball, and they had to make a lot of moves in the offseason, and they didn't have the chemistry or whatever. And then this year they come out and they're able to win the championship. This year the Browns had a lot less distraction. They were able to kind of get some chemistry going last year, but not so much. And then this season they've been clicking on all cylinders. Kareem Hunt being there for the full season and not having that 8-game suspension or whatever it was that he had last year. It's definitely turned the entire team around, and they're looking like a pretty solid unit. Yeah, the Bengals played them pretty closely and could have had a chance to beat them. And you're always going to have those games to where it's close at the end or whatever. But the good teams win those close games.
Sure.
Look at the Seahawks. They're undefeated because they've been able to win those close games.
Right. And as from what I remember last night, the Seahawks were down in the third quarter, so they were able to come back. So yeah, it's crazy to see up there. It'll be interesting to see who actually ends up becoming the division champ up there.
Yeah, I mean, their only loss this year is to the Ravens, who also 4-1. So it'll be interesting now that the Ravens have that head-to-head victory over them. Of course, they will play again this season, and we'll see if it turns out any differently or whatever happens. But the Ravens do seem to be a slightly better team than the Browns. But if the Browns can keep clicking, then who knows, man?
Yeah, it's
We'll
great.
see what happens. It's just blowing my mind that the Browns are 4-1.
Yep. It
Now,
hasn't happened since the early 90s from what I remember reading somewhere.
oh wow, I thought it would have been maybe the early 1890s for them because they've been terrible for a long time.
Yep.
But if you remember a couple weeks ago, we were talking about different coaches being on a hot seat. And one of the coaches that we mentioned was Dan Quinn, and how that seat that he was on was getting to nuclear levels, and it finally exploded. And the Atlanta Falcons announced this week that they had fired Dan Quinn, and they also got rid of their GM, Thomas Dimitrov. I think that's how you pronounce the last name.
Weird Russian name, I think.
Yeah, close enough. Uh, not gonna work here anymore. But so now they've got an interim GM, and they haven't named a new interim head coach for the time being. What do you think of that? 0-5 start to the season. We've been saying for a year and a half now, like, how is this guy still here? Finally, Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, caught up to us and was like, okay, yeah, you guys are right. I'm going to go ahead and cut him loose. Who's going to come in and be the next head coach of your Atlanta Falcons?
Man, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know if they're trying to build on what they've got, or I don't know if they want to try to get into a rebuild scenario, because for what it's worth, they have a decent offense. And I think they could do something with it, but I don't know what kind of direction they're going to go in here, because they have to get a new GM and a new head coach. So GMs always like to kind of throw their weight around and get who they think is going to be good for them player wise. So who knows, man? It's very up in the air.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, especially bringing in an interim GM. I guess somebody just to kind of handle it in the time being. That's always a sticky situation, because then like, interim tags, you're usually going to lose that job soon. So we'll see what happens with them. But I could definitely think that if they finish the tank out, if they go 0-16 or 1-15 or whatever it is that they end up going, I could see them drafting uh, Trevor Lawrence from Clemson and replacing Matt Ryan, because I think Matt Ryan's kind of at the end of the road. I think that they're ready to move on from him, and bringing in somebody like Trevor Lawrence, or maybe even Justin Fields from Ohio State or something like that, but specifically Trevor Lawrence, then you could also maybe entice Dabo Sweeney to come with them as your new coach.
Sure.
And Dabo famously said that if kids in college started getting paid to play, then he didn't want to coach in college anymore, that he would just go on to the NFL. So I would think that he would want to go and coach somebody that he's familiar with, at least as a quarterback, and somebody that he has good chemistry with. So that definitely would kind of point me in the direction that he would go to wherever Sunshine ends up going. But there's also another team out there that recently fired a coach and a GM, and that's the Texans. They also happen to have a quarterback that is a Clemson graduate in Deshaun Watson. So maybe Dabo ends up in Houston, or maybe they get in some kind of bidding war for Dabo's services. But I definitely think that Dabo is going to be coaching in the NFL next season.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think if they do end up tanking and getting a chance at getting Trevor Lawrence, it wouldn't be a bad pickup at all, because Matt Ryan is not completely done yet. So that gives the kid a couple of years to learn from Matt Ryan and stuff like that. And if it just so happens that Matt Ryan gets injured or doesn't want to play for the Falcons or whatever anymore, then you've got this young guy. And if Matt Ryan does want to stick around a little bit, kind of like how Aaron Rodgers was able to be behind Brett Favre for a couple of years, then you've got your next man up all set up and just ready to go for whenever the time comes. So maybe they can pull that off if somebody gets the reins that's smart.
I think that's kind of the plan that I would go with at this point. I wouldn't be hoping for something similar to what they did last season and lose, basically enough to knock you out of playoff contention early, and then rattle off 6 or 7 wins at the end of the season when it doesn't matter, and then basically set yourself up to be another middle of the road draft class, so that you end up not getting to take one of the top prizes in the 2021 draft. Yeah, you'll get another good talent. Yeah, you'll add another first round draft pick somewhere on your team. But if you're still stuck with Matt Ryan at quarterback and you're not really moving the needle anywhere else, is it really going to make a difference?
Yep. Yeah, and our buddy Justin has complained about that for years, that they lose a crap ton and then win a bunch to make it just all worthless. Like, they're not going to get any draft picks, and they're also not going to make the playoffs. So they're just constantly middle of the road. So
Yeah.
it seems like, I mean, if you're going to go 0-5, like, you might as well just cash it in for the rest of the year and try to get a good draft pick.
Yeah, let's see. We got some questions in the comment. Brandon is asking, doesn't Washington and both New York teams have a worse record? Atlanta's 0-5 right now. So I know Washington's won one game. I don't think either of the New York teams have, but there's that. So, but no, Atlanta is definitely one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. And if they continue to just skid, they could end up with an O for the season. Uh, Jim Surdom from NFL Trash Talk 2020 asking if we're still talking about Dak. No, we already talked about him at the beginning. That was a horrific injury. Sucks, but it is what it is, man. Anyway, the Texans did actually name an interim coach for the time being, and it's Romeo Crennel. Romeo is the former defensive coordinator of the Texans squad, so he's familiar with the team, familiar with the system, and he actually became the oldest head coach in NFL history. And he also is now the oldest NFL coach to pick up a win, because the Texans actually won in the first game since firing Bill O'Brien.
Nice.
So Crennel got that little record, but if he's just a band-aid for the season, like, yeah, what do you really expect from this guy to come in with the mess that Bill O'Brien left? If you're planning on a new coach in the future, I think Dabo's the way that they go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes sense for him to go to a team that has a Clemson kid on the squad, because, hey, you've got that connection, and you start off on the right foot.
Absolutely. And like, Zach, I was on vacation. We talked about it a little bit before we really got going on this episode. So I missed out on doing my 5-minute fantasy segments this past week. So if you're watching and you've enjoyed those segments that I've been doing, I'll be doing them again this week. But I want to go ahead and do a 5-minute fantasy segment tonight, because of the fact that we've had the Dak injury and stuff like that. So Let's give the people what they want. Let's give them 5-minute fantasy. I just love that song and like to play it every chance I get. But with Dak's injury out there, a lot of fantasy owners, including myself, are going to be scrambling to try to pick up the next best guy who you're going to plug in there. Hopefully, you've got a good backup already on your bench that you can just plug in there, and then you're just looking for somebody to fill in for that bye week. If you're like me and you're riding Kirk Cousins on your bench, you might want to start looking at some of these other guys that are out there. Some of the choices that I see that should be on most waiver wires. First off, we got Justin Herbert, who's available at about 65% of the leagues out there. Kids, lighten it up for the Chargers for what it's worth. He's posted 2 games out of 3 where he's put 20 plus points on the board in fantasy. He's leading the Chargers to, a better than Tyrod Taylor was. Let's face it. Sucks for Tyrod, but it is what it is. Another guy that's out there that's available in 80% of the ESPN leagues, Ryan Fitzpatrick. This guy, for some reason, he's just stayed on the waiver wire. This past week, he posted 27.6 points, and he's had 4 consecutive weeks of 20 plus points.
Fear the beard.
Fear the beard. He's still on the waiver wire. And then if both of those guys happen to be taken in your leagues, Andy Dalton is available in 99% of the leagues. Go ahead and take that gamble with the red rifle. He's got a ton of weapons there in Dallas. He's been a decent enough quarterback for his career in Cincinnati with nobody. So you got to think with all these weapons that he has in Dallas, he's going to be able to do something. If you're in need of some kind of wide receiver help or whatever, it looks like Chase Claypool of the Pittsburgh Steelers has emerged as a fantasy darling and a big time playmaker for them. Week 5, he jumped completely up on everybody's list, and I guarantee he's going to be taken in pretty much every league these days. Immediately after his 4 touchdown game this week, he posted 7-11 is open 24/7, kind of giving a nod to Big Ben wearing number 7 and Claypool wearing number 11. Thought it was pretty clever. Right now, he's available in 91% of the leagues, but I guarantee after waiver wire Wednesday, that number is going to drop significantly. And if you need a tight end, I know a lot of guys out there have had some bad luck with their tight ends, a lot of injuries at that position. Looks like Tom Brady has found a new favorite target with, Chris Godwin having injury issues and Mike Evans missing some time and stuff like that. And his name is Cameron Brate. Brate didn't get any targets through weeks 1 through 3, but in week 4, he caught a touchdown. And in week 5, he caught 5 of the 6 targets. It looks like he and Tom Brady are starting to develop a little bit of chemistry down there in Tampa Bay. How is that for 5-minute fantasy?
I liked it. It's good to know about the tight ends because Jared Cook has not been playing due to an injury. So I picked up the tight end from the Bengals, and he has not really performed. So I'll see if that dude is available.
Yeah, you picked up Drew Sample, right? Yeah, he was supposed to be, a better option for Cincinnati, but I don't know if it's just that Joe Burrow wasn't able to really get that chemistry going with him, because the tight end that they had that did get injured was one of the favorite targets before he got hurt. And then after that, Sample just wasn't able to. I don't know if he's not a good route runner, if he just doesn't have reliable hands, but it is what it is. T. Higgins kind of emerged as the new guy that Joe Burrow has enjoyed throwing to. Let's move into our booms and bust segment of the podcast. And, we every week we try to pick out a few different quarterback or a few different players that boom in fantasy, and then we always have a few guys that are just busts in fantasy for that week. And this week, I think it's the first time I'm going to mention Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes had 29.7 points, 3 total touchdowns. He threw for 340 yards and had 1 pick. If it wasn't for that pick, he would have posted over 30 fantasy points this week. It's the first week that he's actually had a significant numbers, and it's ironic because the team lost this week.
Yeah, that is funny.
So I mean, maybe there's something to that. Maybe Dak Prescott always playing from behind and being forced to throw the ball in the second half. Maybe that's why he's had all those higher stats and why he's been a fantasy gem this year. Patrick Mahomes has had pretty lackluster numbers, but in the week that they lose, he's one of my booms.
Yep.
Who else did you have at quarterback that was a boom this week?
Quarterback, Russell Wilson again is a big one.
I think he's just a given these days.
Yeah, he doesn't even boom. He just stays at that level and never really drops down. But a boom for me is Adam Thielen. I believe you mentioned him earlier, but he had a hell of a game. He had 29.3 points, 9 receptions, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the 2 touchdowns is what gave him the big plus. So yeah, he's a guy who's kind of been wishy-washy. I mean, he's got Kirk Cousins thrown to him, so it's hit or miss. But this week he was able to put up a very good showing. So if you had him, good on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Another guy that I thought was a boom was Kyler Murray. Kyler kind of gets forgotten about, and he's kind of had a few down weeks, but 26.3 points, 2 total touchdowns, 380 yards. Not bad for the little guy. And running backs, we got to talk about Mike Davis. That dude, he balled. He had 29.9 points, 89 yards rushing, and a receiving touchdown. So Mike Davis is filling in for Christian McCaffrey there in Carolina, and he's doing a bang-up job.
That's got to be tough shoes to fill too.
Absolutely. And I know last week you were down on Josh Jacobs a little bit, but he had a pretty boom week, getting 22.5 points. So maybe he was listening last week and was like, well, I can't have Zach, down on me 2 weeks in a row. So I gotta lift up his spirits a little bit this week.
Yep. He made one rushing touchdown that was pretty damn impressive. It was pretty close to the goal line, and he just put his head down and blasted through, which was pretty impressive. So yeah, I mean, he's hit or miss, honestly. He had a great breakout to the season and has been kind of hit or miss ever since. I don't know if it's just the play calling or what, but he's not as solid of a pick as what was once thought.
Sure. Well, and of course, wide receivers. I mentioned Chase Claypool earlier in my 5-minute fantasy segment. He posted 42.6 points to lead all players in fantasy this week, 7 receptions for 110 yards and 4 total touchdowns, 3 receiving and 1 rushing. Dude had himself a game. He's the first rookie since I don't know when to get 4 touchdowns in a game. So good on him. Don't expect the same output every week, but if he and Big Ben are able to develop that chemistry and keep going, you could see him and Juju start to go off a little bit more in fantasy. Now, of course, the other side of that coin are the busts. There's always going to be guys that have terrible weeks, and I think they're going to be just outright miserable. But before we do, I do want to go ahead and give this plug. Jared's absolutely right. It is time that we start talking about Mike Gesicki from Miami. That dude has been balling, and he's part of the reason why Ryan Fitzpatrick had such a dominant week this week, was because that tight end can catch pretty much whatever the beard throws his way. But moving on to the busts, Matt Ryan. We talked about him earlier as potentially getting replaced by Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or whatever. With all that first round talent that they have on that Atlanta Falcons offense, Matt Ryan only was able to muster 6.94 fantasy points, 226 yards and an interception, no touchies. With all that talent around you, how do you expect to be able to win if your quarterback can't even get them the ball?
That's not going to do it.
No, sir, not one bit. Um, I also got Lamar Jackson for the first time as a bust because 13.5 points. He had 2 touchdowns, but only threw for 180 yards and threw a pick. So Lamar Jackson just was not able to get it going this week, which is kind of a rare thing for him because he's usually lighting up the fantasy scoreboards. So I know he went in the 3rd round in our fantasy draft, and these guys that have been going early in these drafts have been kind of disappointments this year.
Yeah, especially for what was given up to get that pick. I mean, if you're taking him early, that means you're not getting one of the good wide receivers and stuff like that. You're missing out. So sucks.
Absolutely. More busts that we got out there. Malcolm Brown, running back for the Rams, 3.4 points. He had 8 rushes for only 30 yards. He actually led the Rams for the rushing touches, but he wasn't able to get it going. He wasn't able to actually get the feet churning and pick up any yardage. And, we talked about Chase Claypool once again being that boom for the Steelers. On the other side of that coin, Juju only got 6.8 points, 4 receptions for 28 yards. Chase Claypool stole his thunder for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've got a huge bust on my team. I don't know if it's because Dak went down or what, but Amari Cooper posted 4.1 points, 2 receptions for 23 yards. That's terrible. I don't know if someone else has taken the receptions or what, but that was a terrible showing.
Yeah, that's not good. And maybe that did have something to do with Dak, but also Dak went down in the 3rd quarter, so Amari just wasn't getting the ball at all in the first half. So it is what it is. But Zach, it's October. You know what that means. It means it's playoff baseball time. And we are now in the championship series of both leagues officially. The American League has already played 2 games. The National League is playing game 1 of their series as we speak. So let's go ahead and bring in our Nest baseball correspondent, Brad Chandler, and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in Major League Baseball. Brad, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. We were just, laying it out that we were talking a little, that we were going to be talking about the ALCS and the NLCS. But before we get into any of that, news came out today that, once again, another MLB Hall of Famer has passed away. So I think it's only appropriate that we, give a tip of the cap to the late great Joe Morgan, as once again we have another Hall of Famer that's died within a week of another Hall of Famer. We've had 5 in the last month that have passed away. So what's going on in 2020, and why are all these Hall of Famers dropping dead?
I honestly have no idea. I actually asked Zach a few weeks ago about what they're putting in the water for St. Louis because 2 of the legends from the Cardinals passed away. So I don't know what's going on. There's been 6 legends this year.
Yep. Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Al Kaline passed away in April of this year. And then, like Brad alluded to, Lou Brock and Bob Gibson, both from the Cardinals, Tom Seaver from the Mets. The Yankees announced Friday that Whitey Ford had passed away at age 91, which that one was the least surprising of the bunch, in my opinion. And then today, 77-year-old Joe Morgan passed away.
That was actually yesterday. He passed away.
Yesterday. Oh, okay. So, do you know the cause of death yet? I still haven't seen the cause of death, just that he passed away.
I haven't seen anything on it yet.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know if he was battling any kind of illness or whatever, but I do know that back whenever Joe West was calling Sunday night baseball games, those were some of the most enjoyable games to watch. He was never a commentator that I was like, get this man off my screen, like a lot of them are today.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen him, but
Okay. Yeah, I mean it was when I was growing up that I got to see him on the call. But let's go ahead and move into what's happening on TV today. Of course, the ALCS has completed games 1 and 2, and the Rays have taken a 2-0 lead against the Houston Astros. How does that make you feel? Being that I know you're a huge diehard Astros hater, and the fact that Ray's pitching is coming to fruition with what we thought that it was going to be.
First of all, I'm not a huge Astros hater. The only person on the Astros that I hate is Carlos Correa. That's it.
He's been about the only one hitting too.
Yeah, really. And every time he hits a home run, I'm just like, grr, But I thought that the Astros had 19 hits in the past 2 games and have scored 3 runs. So I mean, that's just not going to get it done. I mean, yesterday they had Blake Snell throw. He threw 20. I want to say it was 29 pitches in the first inning, and all they got was 1 run. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he was at 60.
They're more talented than that.
He was at 60 pitches at the end of the 4th inning yesterday, which is crazy. But we knew that the Rays bullpen was going to be dominant. We've known that all along. Kevin Cash even told us he's got a bullpen full of guys that throw 98. So, we knew that they were going to be good come playoff time. And that's something that we talked about 2 weeks ago whenever we had you on, that the Rays pitching is what was going to carry them. And that's certainly the case.
Right. And I was actually watching something on Fox earlier tonight, right before the NLCS started. They have the Rays favored to win the World Series.
Oh, wow. That's interesting because pretty much everybody and their brother has been saying Dodgers forever, but
they're saying that the Rays have a better pitching staff.
I could see it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean,
because that's basically what we've been saying the whole time, is that the Rays pitching was what was going to win it all. And you made a point earlier about the Astros having so many hits but so few runs. If you just looked at the box scores without looking at the scoreboard, you would probably think like, oh, the Astros are dominating the series. They've got 13 hits. They've got in the 2 games, their 2 starting pitchers have pitched a combined 13, 14 innings out of the possible 18, and they're sitting there 0-2. So it's insane. I mean, Lance McCullers today had 12 punch outs in his 7 innings of work. I don't know. The only hits that he was really giving up were bombs.
I think he only gave up that 1 home run to what the hell is his name? He made that fantastic catch. Manny, whatever.
Manny Margot.
Yes. Yeah. He made that. Did you see that catch?
Yeah, where he reached out over the kind of flipped over the rail or whatever.
It was incredible. So McCullers went 7 innings. He gave up 4 hits, 4 runs, 1 earned run. He struck out 11. He did give up 2 home runs.
Yeah, he gave up the 3-run bomb to Margot, and then he gave up a solo blast to Zunino.
How fitting is that the reliever who relieved McCullers Jr.'s name was Scrub?
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, he didn't give up any more runs though. The Astros bullpen was able to keep it at 4, and the Rays bullpen actually started giving up a little bit of runs and kind of made it dicey late, but they were able to close the door and move on to 2-0. So good on them. 2 more wins to go until they're in the World Series, and like you said, they are now favored to win the World Series. And looking over at the National League side of things, I'm seeing that the Braves have already jumped out to a 1-0 lead in that series. Is it possible
Sorry about that. Freddie Freeman just hit a home run to score that run.
Okay, so is it possible that we see a Braves Rays World Series this year and the Dodgers don't even make it?
That'd be insane, wouldn't it?
I don't think so. I do I've actually picked the Dodgers to sweep. There's still a lot of game left. I mean, it's only in the second inning right now. So, I mean, it's a 7-game series, so it's still, you got today, you got tomorrow. Whoever wins today, if they win tomorrow, then you can be like, okay, what's going on? Can we possibly see the Dodgers go to the World Series, or can we see that the Braves are going to the World Series? But until it's like a 2-0 or a 2-1, then I don't know. Honestly,
you're not getting excited yet. I got you.
No.
I'm just trying to float that out there. I mean, it's kind of my job as a host of a podcast to get people thinking about, the possibilities. And if for whatever reason the Braves are able to take down the Dodgers, take down the mighty juggernaut out west, and the Braves make it to the World Series to play, say, the Rays, what does that mean for the Dodgers organization? What does that mean specifically for Dave Roberts?
Well, in my opinion, I think that if the Dodgers don't make it, or if the Dodgers do make it and don't win, I think Roberts is out of a job.
I agree.
Yeah, they've got way too much talent for them to not have won a World Series by now. I mean, I understand making it to the World Series a few times and losing to some good teams, but they really don't have a hole other than Kenley Jansen has not been great. He hasn't been able to close out games, but they've got all of the hitters that they could ask for, and they have some very decent starters and a relatively good bullpen. So I agree. I think if they don't make it happen this year, then Dave Roberts is gone.
Yeah, I mean, David Price opting out kind of hurts a little bit as far as the quality of their starters, but they still have Clayton Kershaw. They still have Walker Buehler. They still have some reliable arms coming out of that bullpen as well. It's World Series or bust for them.
All right. And I also think that something's going to end up happening with the Yankees.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're not going to be happy with this, not even making it this year. And everyone was saying, and Yankees players were all saying that they had the most talent and whatever. Clearly, they didn't make it, so I think there's going to be a change coming there too.
I believe Aaron Boone had the Yankees had an option on Aaron Boone for 2021. I don't think they pick it up.
I don't either, and I think that's the move that needs to be made with the Yankees organization. I was talking with our boy Harvey, and he's a big Yankees fan, and he's like, dude, something's got to give. Boone just ain't it. He misses Joe Girardi already. I think they also need to make the move to get rid of Cashman. He's been.
I've been saying that too.
He's been the GM there for over a decade and hasn't been able to really produce much of anything, even though he's had tons of all-star talent. He's had all the MVP talent that he's brought in, stuff like that, and nothing's been able to materialize. Yeah, you can say injuries have plagued them for season after season after season, but after so long, it's like, okay, something's got to give, guy.
Yeah, Cashman's been in the front office or the GM for the New York Yankees since the '98 season, I want to say. So he's been there for two decades. Yeah. And, when he joined the organization, he didn't build that team. I mean, it was the previous GM who helped build that team. And basically, he's only won one World Series. So
09, right?
I don't see what the hype is with him. He just spends so much money. And from what I understand, the Yankees are trying to get under that threshold this year.
Well, as Red Sox fans, we know how ugly the season can get when you have to get under that threshold. And fortunately, the Red Sox were able to do that but they still didn't get the big reward that all the Red Sox fans were hoping for, because news came out that they are going to end up with the 4th overall pick in the 2021 draft. So the get rocked for a rocker campaign, it fell flat.
Yeah, rocker. Then you had lighter. So see if we can get one of the two.
It's going to be tough, being that we end up with the 4th overall pick. I don't know what talent is out there as far as fielders or sluggers or whatever you're looking at, but I know the 2 big name pitchers are Rocker and Leiter, and they're projected to go before number 4.
Absolutely. I think they're going to be the first 2.
As they should be. They're generational talents. They're guys that you're eventually going to have as aces on a staff. So you would hope that they would be the first couple picked. But if one of them happens to slip to the Red Sox, I would be ecstatic about it. Maybe it'll be a situation like Tua falling to the Dolphins.
Could be.
So right now I'm actually looking at it, and they're saying that they're doing like a mock draft. They're saying that Kumar Rocker is going to be going to Pittsburgh. The Rangers are going to end up, like I said, this is a mock, drafting a shortstop, Jordan Lawler. And the 3rd, Detroit Tigers are going to be, again, mock draft, Judd Fabian, which is another outfielder, and they're saying that the Red Sox are going to pick Jack Leiter. So,
wow. So Leiter might fall to 4, which would be kind of a win in my book.
I'll take one or the other.
I think Rocker has been kind of the odds-on favorite to be the number 1 overall, and whenever everybody was talking about the tank, that's who everybody wanted. But if a consolation prize for the 2020 season is that we get Jack Leiter out of the deal, I'm good with it. Got under the luxury tax threshold, didn't have to give up any draft picks or whatever, have money to spend in free agency this year, and the possibility of getting Leiter at the 4th overall pick. That's somebody that's going to be able to get developed in the farm system and come up and be a stud in the major leagues one day. 2020 is a success in my book, if that's the case.
Absolutely. Now, I just had something come across my phone right before I came in. I wanted to share it with you guys. Did you guys hear about Tommy Pham getting stabbed?
No.
Yeah, so I just got a thing across my phone from the Athletics saying that he's in the hospital getting surgery. He got stabbed. Give me a second here. Yeah, that was weird because I didn't hear it from anybody else.
We're talking about Tommy Pham,
yeah,
from the Padres, right?
Yeah, he plays for the Padres. He used to play for the Rays.
He used to play for the Cardinals as well. Yeah, I see it on ESPN right now. Padres, Tommy Pham in good condition after stabbing in San Diego.
Jesus Christ.
Wow. This is breaking news as of an hour ago.
Like all these people.
What were you going to say?
So there's that. And then you got, did you hear about the Billy Beane thing where he's going to be leaving the Oakland A's organization to join the Fenway? Yeah. There was a lot of stuff that happened today. Rick Renteria got let go. That just brings up a whole slew of rumors now.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime Billy Beane is involved, famously from Moneyball, the movie with Brad Pitt, and anytime he's involved, that there's some crazy stuff going on behind the scenes. So let the rumor mill keep churning. We'll be here every week to keep trying to cover it and keep up with it all. For what it's worth, off-season baseball can be just as exciting as in-season baseball. The hot stove really gets heated up, and all the moving pieces are happening. Specifically this year, it's going to be a lot of moving and shaking with guys in the front office and guys that are the managers of teams. We know that the White Sox just relieved their manager of his duties as well. So they're going to be looking to hire a new guy this offseason. And the Red Sox are obviously shopping around for a new manager as well. So it's going to be something to keep your eye on. And Brad, I'm glad that we've got you in the fold, because I know you keep your ear to the ground for all this baseball news, and you let us know as soon as something big happens.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to that stuff.
So are we. It says nerd right there above my head for a reason.
It's the reason I said it.
Well, guys, do you have anything else you want to add to the episode tonight?
I'm all good.
I'm all set.
Cool. Well, to everybody watching out there, we thank you for watching and participating in the comments. I know whenever we switch to baseball, we have a lot of people tend to drop off, and our football crowd is probably long gone by now. But I want to give a shout out to NFL Trash Talk 2020. Those guys are great. They're always popping in our comments and saying some funny stuff. And I want to give a shout out to Chase Slagle, who wrote and recorded the new intro and outro music for us this past week. And it's awesome. I love what he has done to it. He took our old kind of generic song and made it our own. And I couldn't thank him enough. I think it's awesome. And I'm glad to have it, on the show and to add a little bit more depth to what we do here. Tune back in every Monday night, and we'll be here talking about everything that you know and love: NFL, MLB, UFC sometimes, and we'll even talk about NBA. You got something else, Brad?
Yeah. Hey, did you see that roundhouse kick on the from that guy in the UFC the other night?
Next
yeah.
level.
Oh yeah. Knockout of the year. Don't even try it. Don't even try another knockout. That one's already won.
Yep. That was insane.
Insane. Yeah, dude caught his foot and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm still knocking you out with my other foot." Peace. But yeah, and I will be back this Wednesday and this coming Saturday night with your 5-minute fantasy updates. So make sure you tune in for all of that, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace.